Hello, malt mates. I'll just give you a few seconds to get used to the new layout. Some things have changed, other things are absolutely here to stay. They will not change. I've got my wee candle burning behind me. I've got a kind of row of found stuff during my clear up. I have been sweeping out the bothy for my first review of 2026. Welcome to review 1111, in which I am reviewing my whisky for the year 2026, which is Ardnahoe, what's it called again? Some things don't change. Ardnahoe Infinite Loch. Ardnahoe Distillery is a single malt distillery on Islay. It's very new. It's a very recent new build distillery, and it's unusual in the world of Scotch whisky at the moment in that they went to the extra expense of introducing worm tubs as part of their cooling system. And if you visit the distillery, you will get a very warm welcome, because I've had a lot of feedback of how much people enjoyed the visit of the distillery when they're in Islay. And they were given a really comprehensive tour, and they were treated with kindness, civility and respect, which is, it's the best way to do it. It's the only way to do it. So some other distilleries need to take note here and copy what Ardnahoe are doing. I've poured a little glass just to give it time to settle down, rest, open up a little bit before I actually review it for you. I've not consumed too much of this whisky because it's not about quantity, it's about quality. But let me start with the quality of this. Even before we taste it, what you're looking at is unchill filtered, natural colour, so it's not been stripped of some flavour, and it's not got industrial dye added to colour it up a little bit, which is fine for passive consumers who don't drink a lot of whisky or don't care about what the whisky they drink. But for the rest of us, for people like yourselves watching the Whisky Bothy, you want to go that little bit extra mile to get that little bit extra result. So I highly recommend this. 50% volume. It says non-chill filtered. It says no artificial colouring, and that's basically all we need to know. Marvellous. I would suggest that this is primarily and prominently bourbon matured malt. You can tell by the colour, but we will go primarily on the flavour. Having said that, when you get a natural coloured whisky where the colour is exclusively coming out of the cask itself and is not an added stuff, you're going to get more honesty from the experience. You're better able to judge and appraise what you're experiencing. So let's just give this a nice little slow roll around the glass. We like the slow rolls. No shakies. Crisp, fresh, biscuity, peated, heavily peated, but not excessively so. There's a sort of, it's like some overbaked shortbread. So you're not getting a Lefroy intensity of peatiness here, but it is prominent. I'm also getting a substantial background vanilla note on the nose, which again corroborates my impression that it's primarily ex-bourbon casks that have been used for maturing. And the vanilla's not coming from the bourbon residue itself, it's coming from the Quercus alba, the American oak. There are 2,000 varieties plus of oak in the world. You'd be surprised where you find oak. You can find oak in Africa, in North Africa, in the Atlas Mountains. The oak trees grow there. So you've got African oak, you've got Andean oak, you've got New Zealand oak. In fact, the only continent I can think that you don't get oak trees is Antarctica, for obvious reasons. The nose is interesting, slightly minty, slightly pineapple. But it's not overwhelming you. You're getting something that it has been actively matured. It's still young. I would put this no more than about 5 or 6 years old. But it's the quality of the maturation during these 5 years which matters. In other words, these are active casks. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's some smaller casks just put in to kind of lift the maturity of the experience. Say some Rundlets, Kildekins, or even some occasional blood casks or octave or two. Because these small casks, you might not use much of them or many of them in your batch, but they do make a difference. A tiny fractional difference, but it adds up. First taste, here we go. It's a new year. I have recommended this as my whisky for the year 2026, so I better be able to justify it for you right now. Dry, cereal, sour, slight bitterness, soft, but resinous. Yeah, it's wood resinous. There's a little bit of sawdust in the background. This absolutely needs a drop of water. It's at 50%. Out with my measuring ladle, because some things are essential for the bothy. 5 millilitres from my brand new rustic water jug. I'm having a wee look at the volumetry here, holding up to the light. It's dense. Again, this is an affirmation, a confirmation that it hasn't been chill filtered. And when they say it hasn't been chill filtered, they mean it. It's quite cool here in the bothy at the moment, despite the fact that I have the fire on. So I do expect a little bit of Scotch mist to appear. However, I am aware that they're not actually bottling at the distillery. This is something they need to invest in, starting with the distillery only bottles. Bottlings need to be bottled at the distillery, because when distilleries are sending away to bottling plants to get their whisky bottled, let me tell you what's happening. They're requesting that there's no chill filtering, but the bottling plants are heavily filtering them anyway, just to be on the safe side. The only way a distillery can absolutely ensure that their product is not chill filtered is to do what Springbank do and do it themselves. This is yet another reason why Springbank holds its reputation, and it continues to surprise me, really does, as to why other distilleries, particularly new distilleries, are not copying Springbank exactly. Sure, it may seem to be more expensive, but what's seriously more expensive than doing everything yourself is when you have bottles sitting in shelves, in shops, in warehouses that are simply not selling because people aren't buying. Logical. Now, I've given this a couple of minutes. Let's head back before we dish out the malt marks. Yes, I've got my malt marks ready. The nose, a little bit more fresh mint, slight apple mint. It's slightly eau de cologne, so that's quite herbaceous. Lovely arrival, soft, intense, gingery, Soft, soft caramel notes. A little bit of cranberry in there in the background. Wasn't expecting that. Sour pineapple, absolutely there. There's, see that pineapple banana thing? You get that a lot on Islay, and I'm seeing it here as well in the Ardnahoe. Give it time in the glass. The longer you give it, the more the actual event will start to stretch out a little bit. Because it's a young whisky, only to be expected, you've got a sharp arrival, particularly when it's neat. Then you've got a modest development and a modest finish. But I tell you what, there's no modesty about the malt mark. Really enjoying this. It's young, fresh, and it works because peated whisky does work when it's young. What's that again? 84 out of 100. Sure, it's my whisky for the year, but it's not going to get an 88 or 89 or a 90. No, let's be realistic about this. It's just the way it is. 84, a perfectly competent, decent mark. Cheers, malt mates. Here's to 2026. It's going to be wild. Bye-bye.